if you had to grow your franchise, double it in 6 months because you absolutely had to, because somebody had a serious illness or because you had to take care of something really important, could you do it? And that question is terrifying, but it's also exhilarating.
A rising tide raises all ships.
We're trying to find, activate, and retain more customers.
You work from 9 to 5 to make a living.
And from 8 to 2 to make a life.
When we look at the heart of the network,
the data shows us key performance indicators about our business.
And this is the InXpress Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the InXpress Show. Today, our guest is Brad Zernov. He's an 8-year franchisee and multiple unit owner out of the state of Wisconsin. Brad has nearly 20 years of sales experience in some of the hardest industries to sell product, including credit card processing services, which is largely based around price. Brad left a nice living and built a great business from zero with InXpress. So without further ado, I want to get it straight to Brad so he can tell you how he's done it. Brad, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks, Blake.
Awesome. So you are a franchisee, a double unit franchisee. Is that right?
Well, I'm working on becoming a single unit, but right now I do own 100% of the Madison, Wisconsin franchise and 25% of the Moore franchise. Yep.
Perfect. So your original was Madison.
Yeah, I started out in late summer, early fall of 2011.
2011. Okay. So
8 years now.
8 years in. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And you live in Sun Prairie.
Yeah, so Sun Prairie is about, 20 minutes from the state capitol of Madison, the actual Capitol building. So I'm pretty close to Madison and lived here since 2001, and it's a great place.
Okay. And when I caught you the other day, you were on a road trip from Madison to Milwaukee, so you must go back and forth and work both areas?
Yeah, I work wherever customers are, one of the things I like to do is if a customer's close to have periodic times to check in and visit, see how things are going, drop off some DHL supplies and, make sure everybody's happy, So I do that with the customers that are close enough for me to just hop in the car and go see them.
Of course. Yep. And Kelly, your wife, you guys co-own the Madison franchise?
Yep. So we entrepreneurship / franchising together in 2011. And she started out as, and still is, customer care lead. And I was sales, and we grew it into we average between $20,000 and $25,000 in margin a year and try to stay consistently in the top 20 each month in margin. And, our growth is certainly, we're happy with where we are at 8 years in, but could always do better and would wish we were doing better always, right? If you're not wanting that, you shouldn't be in entrepreneurship to begin with. So you should always be striving to do better. And
yeah, you don't have a pulse.
We're always trying to think of, what could we do differently? What could we do more efficiently? It's a never-ending quest.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what I want to get into here. So you have a pretty extensive sales and sales management background of, it looks like almost 20 years, right, before you got into InXpress?
Yeah, so about 11 years or so in sales. And basically, before that, in my previous life, I was a mental health therapist. I got my master's in counseling. I went on to get a doctorate and practiced in counseling / clinical work from about 94 till 2000 in different types of jobs, from being a counselor assistant to actually a therapist. So I did that for a pretty good chunk of my life, and then I jumped into the sales in 2001 and took off from there and really started from the bottom and worked my way up. So the first job I ever did was selling collection agency services, which is not too hard when the person needs money and wants money that people owe them. So did really well at that, and I'll never forget, I set office record of 17 sales in June of 2001. I was really proud of that.
Wow.
And but it wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be nearly as quickly as I wanted to. So I looked at the world of, what's a business, what's an industry I could get into where I can make an ongoing residual. In other words, I get paid from the efforts of the past, even when I'm not working. And credit card processing, merchant services looked pretty appealing because, one, lots of businesses take credit cards, and two, the folks that sell that product and service, they tend to, the good ones, will pay a residual to their sales reps. So I hopped into a company just up in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Real good guy, had a little small firm that he was reselling credit card processing services, and he said, come on board, and I started doing that. And he said, why don't you hire some sales reps? So I got up to 5 sales reps, and I could call myself a sales manager as this little independent contractor at this company in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. And I saw an ad one day for a company called Link Systems out of Atlanta, Georgia. They were a real fast-growing, I think they were Inc. 500 back in the early 2000s, growing company, and they were looking for a sales manager in Madison, Wisconsin. I replied and said, yeah, I got a team of 5 and we're winning awards and we're doing great. So they hired me, and for the next, 2003 till 11, so that was 8 years, I worked there, and I moved up from being a sales rep, they hired me as a sales manager of a small team, became a regional sales manager of Minnesota, Iowa, and eventually grew into regional sales director of 13 states and had over 88 reps under me and was traveling a lot, over 100 nights a year. And in 2010, I said, enough is enough. And we said, we're going to do something different. We started looking into opportunities in franchising. And I have a great friend. He no longer does this, but he had the franchise in Madison for Entrepreneur's Choice or Source. I can't
Source.
remember.
Yeah.
Source. That's it. Yep. Great guy, and he just started showing us models. And the InXpress model was really appealing to me because I had success in outside sales. I understood what it takes to do it, and you keep customers happy, it becomes a residual ongoing income. And I talked to Kelly, and I said, you want to try this? And he said, let's do it. And that's how we got to where we are.
Right. That's funny because I found InXpress through the Entrepreneur Source out of Minneapolis.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, same sort of thing. I didn't realize that was a franchise business.
It is a franchise, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So tell me about mental health therapy and how that helps sales. It has to a little bit.
Well, it helps all the time with everything, right? I mean, so, I think one of the biggest things I took from that and take every day in interacting with people is really being present when you're engaging with somebody, with the customer, back when I was engaging with sales reps, with anyone. And what I mean by being present is actively listening, really, when you're engaging in a conversation with somebody, really helping them feel like you're not only with them, but you're totally comprehending and grasping or attempting to grasp what they're saying. And, that's a basic skill in counseling. And it's something that, I find myself doing, all the time, engaging with customers because, I want them to feel comfortable enough with me and understand that I'm really listening and trying to understand their perspective, because their problems to them are the most important problems in the world. And they feel like they don't get much understanding, and they don't get what they need. They could always wish things were better. And the better I can be at listening and really caring, the more likely they're going to keep shipping with me or keep doing business with me.
Right. Isn't that the truth? And probably helps with marriage, actively listening and engaging, huh?
Well, my wife always tells me what I used to do. So she's very good at reminding me that, it's important to actively listen. It's fascinating. So I've been married. We just celebrated our 30th year.
Oh, congratulations.
And yeah, it's awesome. We had a chance. We got something we never do. We took a trip to Europe. We went to Italy. We enjoyed Rome. We saw Venice. We saw some other countries in the Adriatic Sea. But in marriage, as a gentleman, as a guy in America, I notice how easy it is for me to compartmentalize different areas of my life. So I've got the home life as a compartment. I've got engaging with my wife as a compartment. I've got work as a compartment. And it's like I've got these different little slots on the shelf of the bookshelf that, are part of me that I enter into. And sometimes the type A, very focused person winds up being the one interacting with my wife when we're not working, and that doesn't work so well. So It's a constant lesson to make sure, to not let some aspects of myself bleed into other ones, and, not take work with me everywhere I am,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's a serious skill to be able to compartmentalize, right?
It is. You just got to make sure you don't take your compartments and bleed them into the other compartments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's very impressive that you still do that, working with your wife. I don't know how much you're actually side by side with her working, but she's in the business. So that's impressive that you can still separate that.
Yeah, like today, a good chunk of the day. So it is, and it's got its challenges. It's not always easy. We both have fired each other multiple times. So since we're both co-owners, we both have the power to fire whoever we want. But
right.
We wind up making up and going on later in the day.
Right.
It's a challenging business because you can wake up and you can have this. Maybe you have a list, or maybe you have tasks in Outlook that you want to get done, and maybe key things that need to get done. And with this business, you can have a crisis come up with a customer, and they become number one, and everything else has to get dropped until you solve that problem. And so you got to be able to be flexible in terms of addressing needs and understanding where do you put your priority. If somebody says, hey, I don't like a quote, or if somebody says, hey, I got to have this I have to have this shipment go out in the next 10 minutes or we're in big trouble. You have to make decisions all the time. Which priority is going to take precedence? Which one are you going to focus on? Because customers, everybody's problem to a customer, their problem is the most important on the planet at that given point in time. So it's a lot of decision making, and we talk about it all the time. When we get these pressing issues, or we have to decide, is it really pressing, or is this other one more important? As a husband and wife, we kind of coach each other on that. And like, I'll be on a phone call with a customer, and Kelly will say, you did a really good job there. And I'll say, well, that was awesome what you did there. And then maybe the next time she says, I could kind of feel you're a little irritated with that person. She could hear it. She could understand it. And so in a lot of ways, we strengthen each other.
Right.
And we help each other grow. So it's an interesting dynamic, but I think it's a really good one.
Definitely. Well, I'm sure we'll circle back to that. Take yourself back. Congratulations, by the way. It says August that you started 8 years ago. So it's just about exactly 8 years. Take yourself back to that time. You and Kelly starting out, bought a business that you probably didn't know everything about, right? What was the mindset during that time?
Well, the mindset, I guess, when we first bought it, so we went to the Discovery Day, and Kenny B was great, and with Dustin, everybody was great, and we had some excitement. Of course, they had Tom Morris pop in and share some of his stories. He's got a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. But I think coming back, we felt like, if we follow this plan, if we do what's recommended, we're going to be okay. We're going to get to where we want to be. And there's really, and InXpress was kind of learning, developing. And back then, there was only one freight tool. It was called Freight Rater from Blue Grace. And we sold DHL or we sold Blue Grace. And Kenny B said, don't even talk to people about ocean. And we've got some providers for heavy air, but they're okay. They're not great. Focus on international and LTL, and that's pretty much it. Really, at first, I told a lot of people, just focus on DHL. Don't think about LTL for a while. But I think my first couple of accounts were LTL because they were pretty easy. But it was a lot of uncertainty. It's a new thing, but I think we both had confidence that if we follow the plan and do what's recommended and don't deviate, we're going to be okay. And it wound up being true. Now, the one thing that nobody can press on you, because it's just an unknown and it's a variable that comes at you, is the level of pressure and stress, and it all depends on your customer base and their needs and what comes at you. But I think if you take the core set of principles and skills and ideas and you come back and you live it out, you're going to start selling accounts, getting things activated, and getting revenue coming in.
For sure, the belief, right?
Yeah.
What percentage of your customers are local there?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have that many out of state, very much by intent. The states of Minnesota and Illinois, we kind of all bleed together. But, I've got a few in Michigan, a couple in Iowa, but not many. Because I do value that face-to-face contact. I do value, even if they're up in Rhineland or Wisconsin, which you may not know where that is, but it's way up going northeast towards the UP. And matter of fact, I got a couple customers in the UP of Michigan, which is a long, long way away. I try to see the good customers. You have to differentiate. Who's my top 20, 25, 30 customers that are so valuable, so important? I want to make sure I really show them value. They have to be. And then, other ones that, maybe they're doing 50, 100 shipments a year. Still, it's not, that's not bad. You'd still want to, take some time and go see them and value them as well. But And then there's ones that you're happy to have them, but you just can't justify financially or from a time perspective going 3 hours to see them if they only do 2 shipments every other month. So again, one of those things where you have to make decisions of how to use your time. But I'd say, just as I'm talking to you, I'd say 80% of our customers were in Wisconsin and northern Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad, who would you label as the most successful business person in your opinion?
The role model or the concept I have is what my dad did, and because it really was, and because I heard the story and I experienced his life and things like that. So my dad was born in Russia, came over with his 5 sisters and 2 brothers and his mom and dad in 1929, just as we were slipping into a depression. Matter of fact, they landed in Ellis Island on Halloween, and with all the kids running around for Halloween, they thought, this is a crazy country. Maybe we should go back because they don't celebrate Halloween, at least back in 1929 in Russia. But my dad, he started from scratch. He settled in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. They had some family here. They were thrilled to get out of Russia, and he just worked his way up. He was the top scorer in basketball in 1941 in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Beaver Dam High School, went into the military, served in the U.S. Navy, running convoys over to Casablanca on a destroyer escort, and came out, went to school first at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin. He wanted to play basketball there, but discovered he wasn't as quick as the other guys, so he transferred to Marquette, got a degree in engineering, worked for the man for another company for a number of years, and then said, I'm going to start a business. And he started in his garage, and he developed these, he was an entrepreneur. He developed printing presses that would take cardboard and print massive amount of cardboard boxes for like Pepsi and Coke, the cartons and things like that.
Okay.
Made a great living, but, he was a true from nothing, absolute nothing to, he wound up making a great living and retired in Florida and everything. And sure, it had his ups and downs, but I look at him as an example because I lived and knew him and loved him, but it just was such a tough, the odds were certainly against him profoundly. He did it, and I admire that a lot in people that just refuse to say no. My dad would tell us, he didn't speak English when we went to class, and he struggled in school, because it was tough. He just pressed on and did it. And better than all the people that make the headlines and, the personal stories to me. And that goes in a lot of areas of my life. And, faith is really important to me. The personal stories I hear from here in Madison, people that, personal stories of even people in InXpress that have struggled. I mean, those are really, really, really meaningful to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's impressive as hell. So my follow-up question is, how would your father run an InXpress franchise if he had the same resources that you have?
It goes down to that whole question of, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to have some guts. And I remember I was 5-6 years old. My dad would talk to people about having guts. You know what I mean? Because you have to be adverse to taking risks. You have to be able to take risks, and you have to, understand you're gonna have to deal with the consequences. But if you're going to get to where you're going to be, you're going to have to take a jump. You're going to have to take a leap of faith. And I think my dad would have probably been, just in some aspects of his life, a little bit more like like Kenny B shares how he bought a franchise with a different franchise organization. I'll say the name if you need to block it out. Unishippers, right? Immediately hired sales reps. So I could see my dad doing that too. To just go for the gusto. Because he had great ideas. He had patents. He developed these machines that he knew nobody else was doing back at the time. So I could imagine him just going gangbusters and going for it. I mean, he sold the product in Germany and Japan, all over,
right,
as well as the United States. So he would do it different than me. See, I'm more of a cautious, I'm not totally risk adverse. So I would go scuba diving down 100 feet of water.
Uh-huh.
No problem. But I wouldn't jump out of an airplane. So I'm one of those in the middle guys. I'll go 90 miles an hour on a wave runner up at my brother's lake up in northern Minnesota. No problem. I'm exaggerating. It goes 70. I'll go 70 miles an hour on a wave runner. No problem, even with 2 to 3 foot waves. Great. But I would not hop on a Harley and go 70 miles an hour on the highway. So
right.
I'm kind of, one of those guys that's in the middle.
Right.
Some things I'm gung-ho and some things I'm more cautious.
Yeah, sorry, let me jump in there because I see a pattern here with immigrants, right? As weird as that sounds. Like the people that have grown up in a harder environment or, not a free country, something where they don't have the opportunities that they have here. It's almost like it seems so easy when they do have the opportunities and the things that they will put themselves through and will put their families through and the allocation of resources and dealing with shortages and building a business, like you said, your dad getting the patents for the cardboard. It's just, it's almost like when you're brought up in an environment like that, it's so much easier for you to thrive when things get easier for you late in life.
No, I agree with you. That particularly for my dad in business. Now, he struggled and, wasn't always home. It wasn't always the best home life, right? And we probably suffered for that as a family. Everybody has to make that decision, right? So you have to decide, there's people that will work 70, 80 hours a week and just do it for as long as it takes to get to where they want to be. I'm not one of those guys. I need a balanced life. I mean, I'd be, if I try to work 70, when I was in the merchant service world, managing, all these different states and sales reps, it was pretty high pressure. And my wife would say you're working all the time. And I think one of the things I appreciate about InXpress is that it's brought me more in touch with who I really am. And that's more balanced. To spend time, go out to dinner with Kelly, spend time with my kids who are all adults when they're all. Got a grandson who's 8 months old. Love spending time with him. Having time for some time when I was with the credit card company, it was hard to. I was really kind of out of touch, because I was so focused on what I felt I needed to do.
Right. Yeah, I like that you mentioned balance. Why you came from the credit card company. You're a really strong family man, church-oriented, religious-oriented. 3 daughters, I believe, all in college.
About 20. 25. She's married, has a successful cosmetology business, meaning she's a hairstylist.
Okay.
And as I said, an 8-month-old son. I have a 21-year-old who's still in school down at the University of Houston now, who's doing a double major in dance and exercise science, I guess I'd describe it.
Okay.
And then my 19-year-old is home for the summer, and she goes to the University of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, part of the University of Wisconsin system, and she's studying to be a nurse. So, yeah, it's a house with a lot of ladies for a long time. So it's good.
Very nice.
So.
Very nice.
I kid with my friends. I've been in the sorority. It's good to come and hang out with the guys once in a while.
Right. So Dan Whitfield is your coach or was your coach, right? Are you with Bill now or?
Yes, he was. My coach right now is Bill Brinkmeyer.
Okay, yeah. Got it. Talk about, if you will, a couple, benefits that you've gotten from each of them. I know that when I spoke to Dan about you, he always has crazy compliments and always talks about your time blocking. It's kind of like you said, when you put cartons on the shelf with different areas of your life, and you're just as good at that with your time, a day structure, how flexible the schedule is. So, yeah, talk about the coaches, what kind of value you've gotten from them.
I think coaching is it's a huge asset and resource that InXpress has brought to us as franchise owners. I think not just education in terms of giving us ideas. Dan Whitfield brings great book ideas, and Brinkmeyer just great success in coaching other people and different strategizing, but just being a sounding board and having someone to talk to and throw ideas at that you might at first think of the craziest thing you've ever come up with, but you have enough trust in them and enough belief in their opinion that you throw it out there just to see what they say. So it's really helpful for not only validation of goals and purpose and vision, but also lets you kind of be creative. Lets me be creative and say, if I did this, what would that look like? If I did that, what would that, is this a crazy idea if I decided to do this? I mean, and one of the things, I lead 2 different men's groups through my church, which is a really huge part of my life and gives me a huge sense of value. And one of the things we talked about this last night, we meet on Mondays, one of the groups meets Mondays from 6 to 7:30 p.m., is how isolated a lot of people are in America, and they tend to be on islands, be it in their business or not, and how few people they can really open up with and talk about and be real about stuff that's really deep inside. We need that. Everybody needs that. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to, first you make this huge investment and sacrifice to become a franchise owner. And then you got to figure out, how do I get this franchise to where I want it to be, so it can be a vehicle I pass on to my kids, or I sell for a nice nest egg, or I just keep going and keep trying to grow it into, an empire. There's a lot of times where you doubt yourself and you have no clue what to do. And before coaching, we were left with, we could call each other, and that's great. But, everybody's busy. When you have this undivided 30 minutes with the coach once a week, it's just really, you use it the way you want, and with both of those, it was huge. Sometimes they'd have real pressing, important things, semi-crises. Sometimes it would just be, hey, just doing good. Everything's kind of clicking right now. I don't really need much. And that's fine. I think one of the things that, and I don't know too many other franchises, I don't dialogue about this, but I think some people don't value and use their coach correctly and see it as the unique opportunity it is. Right?
Right.
For somebody to really be there to help you and give you their input, their level of expertise, their knowledge, and you to be able to really throw out as crazy ideas you want, or just needing somebody to pick you back up because you had 3 days in a row where nobody was nice to you on the phone. That's invaluable, I think.
Right. Yeah. The whole that was a perfect transition, because what I was going to say is, when I was told about the coaching program and about franchisees coaching other franchisees, I had a bad attitude about it. I wasn't accepting of it, and I don't think I got the value from my coach that I should have. I was coached by Mark Lyon, who was number 2 in the system, and I just kept thinking, like, why would the Subway the Subway sandwiches franchise be coached by another Subway sandwiches right across the street and on how to sell sandwiches? It doesn't feel like I would want to listen to what they're saying, or they would want to tell me good advice, because it's direct competition, and that's the attitude that I have, which now I completely disagree with. It's totally wrong. I get wild value out of talking to other franchisees. That's why we do this. That's why I love convention. That's why, I like to call franchisees as much as I can. And honestly, the less that you hold back and the less that you feel like is a quote unquote secret, the more value is always extracted for your own self. Yeah, it was big for me. And honestly, that's where the results started to come for me as well, is when I started to hang my hat and say, look, I need some help and actually talk to these people and listen to these people. But yeah, I am coached by Bill Breakmeyer as well now, and it's awesome. I absolutely love our conversations, and it's clear that, and I think Dan is like this too. I know him pretty well, but they are interested in your well-being as a person, right? Not just working for InXpress and reporting key performance metrics. It's more of, I know that Brad Zernov is going to perform when Brad Zernov feels the best, right? So if it's a relationship with Kelly, or if it's a relationship with anything else that's holding him back, like, we need to sort that out first, which is an awesome, sounding board to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What would you say your selling style is, Brad?
Whatever it takes on a given day to get a customer to say yes to sending me an application and doing a shipment in the next 3 days. Whatever it takes. I'll do phone. I'm pretty good at knocking on doors. I've not gotten into the email. See, the email marketing to me is so removed from what I like to do. I like to engage with people. I like to dialogue. So, I certainly like to talk on the phone. I like to, try to, if possible with the prospect, get at some of their pain if they have pain. People don't like to admit, too much pain on a first call, or when you knock on the door and you walk into their office, interrupting the middle of their day. They usually don't start telling you about how much they hate FedEx or UPS, or that the LTL world is a disaster to them. And if you can break through and connect and understand what they're struggling with, I really like that. And people do very well with email marketing. There's nothing wrong with it, nothing against it, but it's just not something I've explored. But when I engage with somebody, it all starts with belief. I believe the solutions that we have can benefit the customers that we talk to. Now, we might not always have the best price, and especially we've had some challenges the last year with some international pricing, but we definitely have tremendous solutions. And, I also believe that when customers need help and they call Kelly or they call people on my customer service team, they're going to get a level of support and care that they would never get from FedEx or UPS or calling an 800 number to talk to, another carrier.
Okay, so let me interrupt you right there. I love that you said those two things back to back, because what I'm struggling with is, how do you sell the service if they're not a customer and they haven't seen the service, right? Like the traditional mindset would think you have to get in with price and then you keep them with service. But how do you keep somebody that you don't have, right? So when pricing is a struggle, and when it's really competitive in the marketplace and international rates are going down, or maybe they can get rates from different platforms, how would you advise somebody like that?
Well, it's unique when you own it, and you own it, your wife owns it, she's doing the customer support. It's a big chunk of our life. We're really invested, and I can tell a prospect, I can tell an opportunity that, we really go the extra mile. If you have a problem, you call us. If you're having a problem getting a quote, we'll do a joint session, a web share, and to say the things that we're able to do, because, I know Kelly, I know what she can do. I know she's outstanding. It's easier to sell when you know that your customer service is better than the competition, because you just know, because you know what the values you've instilled as a team, certainly in our marriage, and certainly in what we feel, why we're doing this is not just because we'd like to have a great living and a great income. It's much more than that. It's to provide value and benefit to people in their businesses and help them have better lives, ultimately, if their business, less headaches and a good connection. Somebody they trust, they can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, how do I do this? Or, man, this was a really rough day with it. We had to call a carrier. Is there a way to do better with this? Is there a way you can help us with that? That is just huge. And you can sell something when you know that you and the person that's doing it is so invested in it. And if you're going to hire someone to do your customer service, you've got to somehow instill that. The thing is, there's a lot of great shared customer service. The thing that you got to instill in your customer service person is just how important it is. And it's not live and die for them. It's not their business. So it's going to take praise. It's going to take bonuses. People tend to do really, really well when they know they're going to get a carrot when they do it.
Right.
And I just think of some of the different sales reps that I used to coach, because InXpress, it can be a challenge to have sales reps just because things are moving so quickly. But the ones that I coached that were sensational, they love the business, and they just grabbed hold of it, and they really worked it. And they really, they lived it as if it was a key part of their life, not the most important by any means, but a key component. And to have a good customer service person or team, I think you've got to instill those values. And I shared with you, I think, bringing, to give Kelly a break, bringing someone in, we're starting to think about that. What if we hired someone to do customer service that she could coach, she could develop, she could really instill the values and the sense of purpose that we have and why we do what we do. That's kind of what the crossway we're at right now. Should we do that or not? How do we do that? What's that going to look like?
Right. So from somebody that has managed a large sales team before, it kind of surprises me that you're not structuring the InXpress business that way. Was there hard feelings with that? Was there challenges that you don't ever want to go back to? Or what's the reason for not trying to grow a large team?
Well, it takes, every day in this business, we get paid based on shipments. We get new customers, activations. So there's only so much time. So when I was a sales manager and a sales director, I was paid purely to go out in the field and coach and develop people. I was trained to go out and write deals for them in their presence and give it to them and show them the way, right? But the thing that I experienced was about a 90% turnover year to year of the sales team. So we'd company had spent a lot of money, bring these salespeople on. The resume looked good. They had all these skills, all these great qualifications. And by the end of the year, out of every 10 people we hired, 9 would be gone. So it's frustrating. So I know what it takes. But I had 3 absolute rock stars. And the interesting thing about, one was a gentleman in his early 50s I hired. One was a lady in her mid 40s or so. Couldn't ask their age, so I'm just guessing, right? Can't HR folks out there. And one was a younger guy. They all sold something that's really, to me, really difficult to sell, and that's advertising. Okay. So one sold Valpak, which you know what that is?
Yeah.
Little coupon books you get in the mail.
Yep.
One sold radio advertising. So, trying to convince somebody to spend money so that you can have a commercial on the radio. And one sold the billboards that, they're in the men's rooms that tell about how great the body shop is down the road. So I think it's franchise. And, they all sold something that to me, how to prove results. In the credit card world, I could set somebody up on an account and show them that they saved $200 over what they had with the competitor the previous month. It's so hard in advertising. So those types of folks really impress me, because they were able to sell something that's so intangible. So one of the questions sometimes people ask, if you had more resources, if you had a lot of money that you could go out and hire salespeople, I'd really target people that sell advertising and were good at it. Just because I had a lot of luck with it, but I didn't get a lot of resumes because they generally tended to like to stay in that field. If you're good at advertising and you didn't want to sell one thing, you go sell something else, but they were able to sell advertising. And, I brought on other people that were sales reps. Maybe they were former drug reps, maybe they had cars, maybe, all these different things, right? Medical equipment, medical supplies, just a lot. Churn and burn, 90% would be gone.
Yep.
So the answer to your question is, I know how much work it is. I know how much time it takes someone to go from good to great, or even from okay to good, and I don't have that time. Plain and simple, I don't have that time.
Interesting.
Because I need to grow my business to pay my bills. For me, the first thing I want to do is free up time for Kelly, so she doesn't have to be at the phone from 8 to 4 every day. Be able to step away a little bit and develop a person in that role. I can sell. I mean, if I get the focus and the attention, I can do that. And the key, I think it's so critical in this. I just hit 630 entries in XMS. So that means there's 630 customers in the books under my franchise. Now, some of them are out of business. Some of them won't, just not going to come back. They're just not. But there's probably a good chunk of them. And I always think about, I wish I had time to go back through and just call them. Say, hey, all the ones that haven't shipped in a year, call them. Say, hey, we'd love to have you back. There's just so much that we could be doing. Goes back to making that decision, that compartmentalizing. Where am I going to put my time, and where am I going to get the bang for the buck? If I hire somebody to be a sales rep, to get them to where I want them to be so they can make the living that they're going to want to make, I know how hard that is, And I used those 3 people that were, and I had other guys and gals that were really, really good. By the way, the 2 were men, one was a lady, just fabulous salespeople. I know how hard it is to get them there. Had a lot of other good ones, but to get the ones that are just willing to just go on autopilot. I mean, they just go on autopilot and they're just writing deals, and they call with their success stories. It takes a lot to get people there.
Yeah.
And as you and I both know, you can spend a lot of time and you can give a lot of heart and a lot of soul, and somebody will quit after 10 months or a year and a half. So, as a matter of fact, the lady that sold Valpak, I loved her. She went and quit on me after 2 years. It broke my heart. She was a sensational sales rep.
And she was doing great with you, huh?
Yeah, and she wanted, there's something about the credit card world too. It's a little bit cutthroat. It wasn't as bad back then, but I still talk to her once in a while. She's a terrific lady, and but yeah, it's getting great salespeople. Getting the salespeople you really want is a very daunting task. And I tip my hat to the Mark Lyons and people like that have absolute superstars. We've seen a lot of franchises come take people to the award ceremony with their sales reps, and those sales reps aren't there 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
So it's a challenge to find the right ones, keep them. And it really goes back to, just like Kelly and I want the absolute best for our customer. I really believe to get a sales rep to be sensational, you got to want the best for them, but you can't give them everything. And as a matter of fact, my superstars, I gave them some leads. I gave them a few things here and there because I knew, okay, if I follow the plan, if I do this, if I do that, I'm going to make 6 figures this year. So it's the long answer to your question. I've got this experience of developing and training sales reps. One who went on to be a millionaire with the company. I mean, just unbelievable. And I know how hard it is. And am I willing to take the time away from growing my business day to day to do that, knowing how hard it is and how, and knowing how many resumes I'd have to go through to find a person. And maybe my expectations are really, really high too because of what I've experienced too, right? But I want to hire somebody that'd be in for the long run, that, that would really be able to grab hold of this and just, and they probably wouldn't be somebody that have a huge base, but I'd have bonuses, unbelievable bonuses, and they grab hold of it. The people that in my credit card world, no base. Those 3 people I talked about, they didn't have a base.
Wow. They
had bonuses. If you write 6 deals this month, we'll give you a $1,000 bonus. If you write 8 deals this month, we'll give you 15. They had bonuses. They hit them all.
Huh.
So you told them, okay, you get this many deals this month and we'll give you this bonus. He just made sure it was going to be done. And they grew their residuals and they grew the business. And that is a unique individual. And, it's just hard. And for me, having that experience and helping those 3 people and others grow into great sales professionals probably is what makes me lean on the conservative side. Remember, I said I'll either go scuba diving in 100 feet of water, and I won't get in an airplane and jump out of it. The conservative side comes in and says, "Oh man, do I have that kind of time to do that again?"
Yep.
Because when I was a sales manager, I lived a sales manager. I lived teaching, developing, training, and their success was my success. Everything I did was so I'm not probably the best guy to talk about hiring sales reps. It's a long way to say it. And I coach people, as you might know. I coach 4 franchisees, and I tell them, and they're all, kind of still fairly young. I say, don't get a sales rep until until you're taken care of. You have enough income so you don't have to worry about it, and also you have enough time that you can spend with them to make them great.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they're not going to be great. You're going to drive yourself crazy hiring one after another, and they're just going to fail.
So it almost ties back to my immigrant theory with if you came from something harder, you're more successful at this. With if you're selling Valpak, right? And then you come to credit card processing or InXpress or whatever the case is, then it seems like a breeze.
Yeah. Selling collection services versus selling credit card it seems so much greater to sell credit card products. Not only is this easier to sell because everybody wants a better rate, and back then when I first got into it was all about I sold telecheck check guarantee, so they could run their check through. It eliminated bad checks for businesses, for liquor stores and places. I could sell those things for $1,000. I go to a liquor store and I could walk out literally with 10 Uncle Ben's in my hand. And, I mean, it was just such a huge need, and it was such a big step from the collection agency. And yeah, I agree. Selling advertising, which is so hard to measure. How do I know it really worked? And then having to get the renewals and all the rest of it. It's a huge difference. So I think I'm a huge believer in going through challenges and going through hard times grows us and develops us and makes us better than we'd ever be without having gone through those challenges. So challenges, to me, be it not only a challenge, but a real hard time, a pitfall, can be a blessing, but only if you turn it around and you see it for what it was. I mean, there's people you and I both know that have gone through hard times and it wrecked them, and they're still wrecked. Yep. And they can't get up. And there's people you and I both know who have gone through times that you and I can't even imagine. And you're like, how are they doing it? Not only how are they doing it, but they are looking, I wish I looked that good. They're doing great.
Yep.
And There's so much to that. You could talk about that whole dynamic all night long. What makes those people that can just take tough times and turn them around and make them into greatness. I mean, that's just cool.
For sure. Toughness makes a man.
You're a strong lady. Got to make sure we...
For sure. Yes. Yeah. And strong women. You're a big reader, Brad. You got C.S. Lewis all over your Twitter, and
oh yeah,
you're always talking about books with Bill. If you could recommend for sales or for InXpress or something for the listeners, what would be your book recommendation?
One that I know that you've read in the past, I'm reading right now. It's the Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek. Very insightful, great ideas. I mean, he talks about, putting down the Ferrari you dream about, what the payment would be, and the vacation to Cozumel as your goals, and then trying to earn enough money to get there. See, there's some things in there I don't quite grab. I just want to have enough money to keep my family comfortable and have a good life, right?
Right.
But a lot of great ideas and thinking outside the box. Another book that's an absolute must read, Jordan Peterson's bestseller, The 12 Rules of Life. It just opened my eyes to so many things so many insights about life. He's a clinical psychologist in Toronto. He wrote this book. He's been on a tour series through all the major universities. He goes to, a school and 5,000 young people come and see him. It's incredible, but really tons and tons of insight. And then Mark Clear wrote a book on, and I can't remember the name, on habits. But I read a lot of books on habits, developing willpower, strengthening, becoming a stronger person.
Is it The Power of Habit?
Just the kind of things we're talking about. Enduring tough times, overcoming challenges. So yeah, I mean, but two titles right away. I love the 4-Hour Workweek and 12 Rules of Life. Jordan Peterson, just great stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a big, the other thing, there's so many great podcasts out there too. So. And you can listen to books on tape. Obviously, Audible's great. It's a little pricey. You have to $15 a month or whatever, but you can download a book, listen to your car. I just love going in and downloading podcasts free and listening to them. While I'm driving tomorrow, I got to go to Chicago, see some customers. I'll listen to podcasts all the way there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. They're becoming very popular. So, Brad, we have a few minutes left. We've got a lot of new franchisees and new salespeople in the business, in the network, here in the U.S. specifically. I'm curious to know, as somebody that's been in for 8 years, knowing what you know now, assume you had a family member or a loved one that was starting the business now. How would you coach them or advise them as day one and advice through the first 2 or 3 years?
Day one, what I would do is I did myself, and what I believe you have to do in anything that you're successful is just start working the plan. The first thing you want to do when you get home, there's two approaches. You could say, I need to learn everything they want to teach me, or I want to get out there and start getting customers. So what I did is I started knocking on doors and talking to people and trying to get customers. And I figured I'd learn all the other stuff eventually, right? So I think the biggest mistake I see in new people is they don't do just a real simple rule and take a pencil and take a little protractor and draw a circle that's about 10-mile radius around their house and try to go find every single business in that 10 miles in the next year. It could be a potential InXpress customer. Say, hello, how are you doing? My name is so-and-so. I'm the new InXpress franchise. I want to introduce you to myself because I think I might be able to benefit you in international shipping, maybe get you some good LTL pricing. I think the biggest challenge is they don't go out and see enough people and talk to enough people. The first year, there's a lot of knowledge to be had. You got to see people because the customers are going to teach you as much, if not more, than InXpress is going to teach you, because they're going to teach you what they need and what their pain is every single day. So I think the biggest mistake is, and there's some people, I'm coaching a young man, Trent Tucker, in Washington, who's totally got it. He's totally gets this. Go get it every day, every single day. Get customers. That's the critical thing. As you get bigger, it gets more challenging because your customers need you to do things for them. But when you're brand new, you should think of nothing else than getting 2 to 3 new account signups a week. You can do it. If you're out every single day, you can get 3 people to sign that application form. And you want to qualify, you want to make sure they're decent customers. You can do it if you really work it. Then as you get into your customers grow, and you need to, you need to start sooner than later. I think find a customer service person so you're not interrupted as they kind of hold on to that too long. But as we talked about, just like with salespeople, you got to have somebody you can trust, right? You got to have somebody that's got your vision, that's got that heart, that's got, they're never going to take it like they own it, but you can get them pretty doggone close if you coach them. You know what I mean? And I think that's really critical, is to recognize the point when you're getting beyond scale. Scale is such a huge thing in this business. You have too many pressures on you. You're not able to do, because you're getting too many. You're getting taken away. You're doing quotes. You're doing this. You're doing that. To recognize that and not be afraid to be an entrepreneur and take a plunge and maybe have to take on a little bit of debt so you get a customer service person for a short period of time. Take your paper and pencil and do a cost benefit analysis and say, okay, if I have to pay $600 a month for a customer service person, but I can bring on 3 additional accounts a month at $200 margin, is this going to work in 6 months? Well, it's a no-brainer, right? But people don't do they don't do the math, but they certainly don't do. People are scared, right? They want to the status quo. It's easy, I understand it. You already took the plunge and spent X amount of dollars buying this thing. Man, I don't want to spend any more money. But you gotta begin with the end in mind, and that's you want to be a $50,000 margin franchise,
right?
And you're not going to get there if when you're at 5,000 or 7,000, you're still your own customer service person. You're setting yourself back. You're actually, instead of taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, which is a lot of days in all of our lives, taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back, or you're stagnant. And I've seen franchises, and I'm sure you see them too. They're stagnant, and they're not stagnant because they're losing customers. They're just stagnant because they're overwhelmed.
Yep.
Right. And I think that can be a common problem. So I think a rule of thumb is in this business, if you really want to get to $50,000, which would be double where I am, you got to take some risks.
Yep.
That's why we're talking about some of the risks. Hiring on a customer service person that's our employee that we're going to train and develop and help have our vision, so Kelly's freed up to do other things to build business.
Right.
That's scary because that's cash outlay, but we won't be able to get to $50,000 if we don't.
Yeah, and you learn so much about yourself when it comes to this kind of thing, right? Like you talked about risk tolerance and capacity tolerance, right? Like there's some people, we always used to laugh. There's some people will remain nameless that there's one issue with a shipment and their hair's on fire, and they're running around and they're calling everybody and, oh my God, I can't talk right now, and this and oh, it's the worst day ever. And then there's somebody else that there's 6 of those going on at the same time and they don't even have their phone. It's just like it's funny to see people's tolerance with capacity, right? With, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. And then also with the risk with, we got into this business, we paid to get into it. And then when are different people comfortable? You get to, a level where maybe you're top 25 and then you turn off the gas and you're coasting from there, or you shoot all the way up into the top 10 and then a lot of people coast there. Or, you're continuing to press with the sales and with the people and with the investments and with the training, like you said, and continuing to attend and be switched on with the calls and everything, because, it can get monotonous, but you have that number in mind. And if you have the risk tolerance to get there, I don't know, you learn a lot about people.
You within yourself change because your vision and your goals and your desire changes you. And I'll never forget, Art Coley, when I first met him, terrific guy. He asked us a question. I think you've shared this question. If you had to grow your franchise, double it in 6 months because you absolutely had to, because somebody had a serious illness or because you had to take care of something really important, could you do it? That question is terrifying, but it's also exhilarating, because if you have to, because there's no other choice, you will find a way. Now, if you're a true entrepreneur and you really got it in you, there's some people that say, I can't, I'm done. But It's those that get that type of challenge and say, okay, whatever it takes, I'm going to make it happen. And maybe, and it goes back, I like the balance, but for a season, maybe you just go gangbusters for 6 months, and then you're back, then you're back into being a little bit more balanced. But if you had to, would you do what it takes? And not forever. You can't live that. But you can do things for a short period of time that are incredible.
Yeah.
Another book, I'm going to throw another book out there. David Goggins wrote this book called You Can't Hurt Me. He's a former SEAL. This guy has run, there's a marathon, right? He's run these races called 100-milers.
Yeah.
These guys that go run 100 miles. And then he set the world record for most pull-ups in a day. And you listen to this guy on podcasts with people like Joe Rogan, and it's like, there's nothing this guy won't. If he was faced with the challenge, he would make it happen.
Yep.
Now he wants to be a good family man. But you got to get it done.
Yep.
You got to get it done in the moment and at the time. And that is what it takes to be successful, is in periods of time in our life, you got to get it done.
Yep.
Now, you can't stay at that intensity forever. But if you do it for a while, like in 6 months, could I double my franchise? It would be really doggone tough. But I would do everything I could, because 6 months is only 6 months. It's not the rest of my life. It's only 6 months. And I do everything I could to make it happen.
Yep.
And that's what you got to ask yourself every day, and there's short period of times you have to do that. I'm very blessed that I don't have to do that right now. I'm 54. But, you asked my wife, and she said, you were living that back in about 2007, 2008. I saw you living that way, and it's hard.
Yep.
But, we came from a real tough situation in 2001 where we were in massive debt and struggling because I'd left the previous profession and had nothing and started all over. So what else do? You just go do it. You got to do it. And she was an incredible support through that.
That question about doubling your business in 6 months if you have to is absolute gold for any entrepreneur just to think through, right? If you can honestly put yourself and truly insert yourself into that position where that was the case. And if you did have a family member that had a serious illness and that was the only way to say, or something that was incredibly urgent, and where your mind goes with that says a lot about you, one, and explains a lot about your business and where to go in the future. Like we talked about that exact question on the last episode with Joe Bennett, and he's like, well, the obvious answer is, why aren't you doing that all the time? And, you explained great that you can't all the time because
you can't. No.
Those levers of business and effort and lack of sleep and, financial hardship and just press are too high, and they can't be balanced by everything else being too low. Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, was it the birds, the seasons, there's a time for this time. I mean, I forget one of those great classic 60s rock bands that you guys probably don't listen to that are listening, but there's a time for this, time for that. Jimmy Page was on the band. I mean, There's a time for everything in its place and in its season, and anybody can make a decision to go gangbusters and make something happen in 6 months.
Yep.
If you had to do it, but are you willing? Are you willing to make the sacrifice, and are you willing to feel the pain? I mean, if you read David Goggins' book, there's a lot of pain when you're on mile 60. And you still got 40 more to go to get to 100, right? You should read his book. It's nuts.
Yep.
I mean, you got to be able to experience pain and get through it. And you find, and this is a truth from my faith. When you come through and you go through the pain, you're stronger. And life has got a little bit different perspective. You feel blessed because you went through the pain, and you wouldn't take it away for $1 million. Because you wouldn't be the person you are today if you hadn't gone through. So that's the thing. And so, my first answer to that question would be, and this is, again, my perspective, if I needed to double my business, I would go, I've got 3 or 4 really wealthy friends right here in Madison that have run incredibly successful businesses. I'd go to them and say, I got ideas. What would you do I'd brainstorm. I'd find mentors. I'd get people to give me ideas before I went to the bank, because eventually I got to go to the bank. You got to do whatever it takes. I'm going to have to get some loan. I'm going to have to do it. What happened? I'm going to have to go try to hire 2 people that's sold Valpak in radio advertising. I'm going to have to find them, whatever it takes, you're going to do, because it's got to get done. Right. But you just do it. And yeah, so it's a great question. You could talk about that question until 2 a.m. when you with a few people over a couple glasses of beer. So,
For sure.
It's such a awesome, really gets the creative juices flowing.
Without a doubt. Well, that is so well said, Brad. We're running low on time here. Is there anything else I want to give you, the opportunity to say anything at all to listeners? Advice, questions, open them up to contact you through email or anything. Floor is yours.
Certainly can contact me through email, but I think that the key is don't live on an island. Don't isolate yourself. You can't expose yourself to too many resources. I mean, be it locally, get involved with connecting with other people. You need to have people you can bounce ideas off of. It's really, really easy when you own your own business to get so consumed that you're isolating and not really living life. And it's important to have people that can help you grow your business, that you connected with. It's important to have people that you have fun with. Got to love your family, got to take care of them. That's the key, is having connections. From 2007 till 10, I wasn't spending a lot of time with friends because I was trying to make this business that somebody else owned in Atlanta, Georgia, and then eventually in the United Kingdom, a lot better and greater. When I was done, I didn't own that business, so you gotta remember what life's all about and what really makes life worth living, and keep back to balance, keep a good balance in your life, but be ready for the seasons, so you might have times where you got to go gangbusters for a short period of time. Probably wouldn't be 6 months. Maybe it's a month where you just have to say, I got to get 12 activations this month to get back on core for getting to my goal. Do it. Make it happen.
I love it. Be ready for the seasons. That's the takeaway.
The good ones and the bad ones. Yeah.
They do. And some are unexpected. Very good, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was wildly successful. Can't wait for hopefully a round 2 eventually.
I'd love to.
Okay.
I could tell I kind of like to, when I get going, I like to talk. So.
Hey man, it's fun to listen to you. It's fun to listen.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brad. We'll be in touch very soon. Appreciate you being on the show.
Hey, thank you, Blake.
Hey guys, it's Blake. Just one more thing here. If you have any interest in InXpress or learning about what we do, head over to InXpress.com. There's a boatload of knowledge on shipping, B2B services, e-commerce growth, growing sales online. If you need a shipping quote or you want to be a sales rep and crush it with us, or the website just sounds cool, InXpress.com. That's INXPRESS.com. Take care.